Quick video about discussions. I haven't talked much about discussions, and shame on me, but I want to talk a little bit about what's going on. Not so much the grading part of it or anything like that, but just kind of one of the past weeks, more of a verbal discussion from me, and then talk about this week a little bit. So anyhow, last week's October 10th through the 16th, and I had posted that the court rules Atlantic City Casino can regulate weight of cocktail waitresses, and heard all kinds of responses, and there's two classes that are doing this, and the bigger class, obviously I'm getting more responses, but and some people maybe were rightfully ticked off, and other people took a little different approach, I guess. Pretty muted, I would say, responses. Sometimes the opinions come out a little bit more, but in any event, my take on it, and certainly I'm not a lawyer nor a judge, and so my take is what it is. But are appearance requirements lawful? And the answer is yeah, absolutely, if they're a business necessity. Okay, and many of you, spoke out, that's improper, it's immoral, it's unethical, it's maybe even illegal. But look around you. Victoria's Secret, while they may be starting some lines that are going to be, for bigger ladies, and I'm not sure that they are. You know what? Yeah. If you watch the Victoria's Secret show that they put on, which I haven't, by the way, but it's pretty much young, very attractive, slender gals, that are out parading around in Victoria's Secret lingerie and whatnot. Okay. I think Victoria's Secret would have a very strong case that that's the audience that they're trying to appeal to, and that's that if they didn't have appearance requirements, it would certainly have an impact on their business. Okay. Magazines, Sports Illustrated, the swimsuit edition, Maxim, Playboy, those types of things. Again, while we're starting to see them, inch maybe towards showing some folks that are, say, a little bigger or whatever, for the most part, there's still very strict appearance requirements, and I think they, again, would have a very strong case that that's the appeal. That's what's allowing them to sell their magazines or whatever the case may be. Other examples, I asked you to look at Hooters, and I didn't see anybody really come up, but Hooters had a defining case several years ago because they were sued because of their requirements. By the way, there's a whole term because now there's other restaurants. I think there's one called Twin Peaks. But it's an actual restaurant, and what they're calling them, like Hooters and Twin Peaks, is restaurants. So it's a coined term that I've read, and I don't mind saying it. I'm not going to get embarrassed that they've coined it. Newspapers and whatnot have for restaurants that have food, granted, and probably beverages, but also have a certain appearance and a certain appearance requirement. And the case against Hooters, it went quite a ways, and basically the government, which had taken the case, the EOC, I believe, kind of folded and kind of agreed to settle, and part of the reason was that Hooters was in the process of showing definitively that their appearance requirements were necessary. It was a business necessity, okay, for them to survive and thrive. Okay, so that's the distinction here. I mean, that's kind of the dividing line. So, when you go to there's a more recent case at Abercrombie and Fitch where a couple of Muslim ladies, I believe they were hired ultimately, but they were put into backroom positions because it wasn't Abercrombie and Fitch. I want to think it was an athletic where didn't want them out in front, thought that them wearing their burqas might be a detriment to business. Okay, they weren't able to prove that, right? Okay, they weren't able to prove then that the burqa, and Muslims have different ways. Some of them are fully dressed, and some of them just wear the attractive scarf around their head or whatever. The company anyhow wasn't able to prove that appearance requirement was necessary for business, good business. Many of you pointed out the old airline one, and they were back then stewardesses or all females, and that's broken down, of course, now. But they had weight requirements, and then airlines tried to defend it for a long time, saying that they need to move up and down the aisle fast in the case of an emergency. Well, one, there's really not that many emergencies that require them to move that fast, and two, they couldn't prove that a real skinny stewardess would move any faster than one that maybe wasn't quite so skinny. So they kind of lost that. But appearance requirements are real, and for a lot of businesses they are important. Strip clubs came up and different things like that. They are important, and they're allowed if it is a business necessity. You get into, should a bank be allowed to require that employees don't have tattoos that show? Maybe. Again, that might be a case-by-case type of thing. It might depend on where you're at, too. That might be really important in a very conservative, old-fashioned, traditional type of area, but might be less important in LA. So those things can have an impact on it as well, and it's probably a case-by-case type of a thing. Now, to this week's topic, and I'm not sure what this week's topic is. I'll have to look, but I'm going to tell you. Oh, it's kind of interesting, but it's another work-related topic, and our subject this week is actually tort. Chapter 10 is actually tort, and so I think that you guys will all be remiss then if you don't start, especially those of you that are responsible for this particular week, if you don't start some threads relating to some of the tort things that might be happening, and I talked about it in the video going over the PowerPoint, but in particular, Samsung, their Note 7, Wells Fargo, and the travails that they're having right now with the fake account things that they've got going on. Okay, very, very much related to the tort discussion for Chapter 10. So I'm going to hope that those things show up in our discussions.